Have you ever really thought about how the bread on your table starts out as a simple stalk of wheat? Well, there's this crucial, kind of high-tech step in between, separating that tiny little grain from the plant. Today, we're going to dive into the incredible engineering behind the machine that makes it all possible, the thresher. It really all boils down to one massive challenge, right? How do you sift through literal mountains of straw and husks to get to the good stuff, the valuable grain, all without turning it into dust? It sounds simple, but to do it for an entire harvest? Wow, that right there is a marvel of mechanical engineering. So let's kick things off with a core principle at play here. We're talking about the great grain separation, that absolutely critical first step that has to happen right after the harvest. The official term for this is threshing. And at its heart, it's all about knocking, rubbing, or scraping grains free from the rest of the plant. For centuries, this was just brutal, back-breaking manual labor. But modern threshers, they've completely transformed it into a lightning-fast, super efficient operation. And a thresher is doing a bunch of jobs at once. It's not just about brute force. It has to detach the grain, sure, but it also has to separate it from the straw and, here's the really tricky part, do it all with as little loss and almost zero breakage as possible. The end goal is clean, intact grain that's ready for storage. It's a serious balancing act. So how in the world does the machine actually pull this off? Well, it's not magic, it's pure physics. Let's break down the 3 key actions that make this incredible separation happen. Okay, the first and most powerful method is impact action. I want you to picture a blur of tiny, high-speed hammers. These rotating parts inside the machine strike the crop with incredible force, and that impact just shatters the bond between the grain and the stalk. This high-impact method is the go-to for really hardy, tough grains, things like paddy rice and wheat. They can take the hit, which makes for a really efficient separation. Next up, we've got rubbing action. With this method, the crop gets squeezed and rubbed between a moving surface and a stationary one. Imagine rubbing a stalk of wheat between your palms to free the grains. The machine is basically doing the same thing, just on a massive industrial scale, using friction to do the heavy lifting. And this rubbing action, which is often done with these specialized things called rasp bars, is just fantastic for getting a really clean separation. It kind of polishes the grain free from any stubborn bits of husk. But hey, not all crops can handle that kind of force. For the more delicate ones, there's a third method, scraping action. This is the gentlest approach by far. Instead of a hard impact or intense friction, specialized parts carefully scrape the grains off the panicle or the cob. And this is where that precision engineering really shines. This gentle scraping is perfect for crops like pulses, lentils, and mustard seeds, things that would be easily damaged by the more aggressive methods. Okay, so we've covered the physics. Now let's put it all together. Let's follow a single grain of wheat on its wild journey right through the heart of the machine. The journey has 5 key stages. First, the harvested crop is fed into the machine. Then, the threshing cylinder, which is really the heart of the operation, uses those actions we just talked about to separate the grain. Next up, the bulky straw gets removed. After that, a powerful fan in the cleaning unit blows away any leftover light stuff like dust and husks. And finally, the clean grain is collected, ready to go. It's like a high-speed, automated production line. And this is not a one-size-fits-all process. The machine has to be perfectly calibrated. For example, wheat needs a cylinder speed somewhere between 600 and 800 RPM. But if you use that same speed on delicate pulses, you just destroy them. They need a much slower 400 to 600 RPM. It's all about finding that perfect sweet spot of speed and power for each specific crop. So this leads to a really critical question. How do you actually know if a thresher is doing a good job? Let's dive into how its success is actually measured. Yeah, it's not just a gut feeling. Agricultural engineers rely on very precise metrics to grade a machine's performance, and it all comes down to a specific calculation. It comes down to this formula right here. Basically, threshing efficiency is calculated by taking the total amount of grain you put in, subtracting any grain that didn't get separated, and then dividing that by the total. This gives you a really simple, powerful percentage that tells you exactly how well the machine is working. And let me tell you, the industry standard for this is incredibly high. A good thresher is expected to have an efficiency of over 98%. To put that into perspective, for every 100 kilograms of grain you feed into the machine, less than 2 are left behind. That is a remarkable level of precision. But efficiency is only half the story. The other critical metric is grain breakage. You want that number to be less than 2%. I mean, what good is separating all the grain if you just end up smashing it to pieces? And for high-quality seed grain, the standard is even tougher, less than 1% breakage. And when these machines are running at peak performance, the scale is just staggering. A modern axial flow thresher can process up to 1,800 kilograms. That's nearly 4,000 pounds of grain every single hour, an absolutely incredible amount of food processed with both precision and speed. Now, of course, a machine this powerful and this complex requires constant attention to keep it running safely and effectively. And that brings us to maintenance. This is not something you can just set and forget. Every single day, operators need to run through a checklist. This means cleaning out all the debris, checking the tension on the belts, lubricating the moving parts, and most importantly, making absolutely sure all the safety guards are in place and secure. And then there's the periodic maintenance. This is less frequent, but it's just as critical. We're talking about replacing worn parts like threshing spikes, recalibrating clearances, and even rebalancing the main cylinder to prevent dangerous vibrations. This is what keeps a machine running, harvest after harvest. So from a simple concept, separating a seed from its stalk, we get this highly sophisticated machine that's governed by physics, precision, and power. The humble grain of wheat has a truly incredible journey, all powered by some really clever engineering. It makes you wonder, what other hidden technologies are quietly powering your world every single day?